2 out of 3 people are obese and overweight in the United States. That should make you self-conscious about your eating habits. Many people try caloric restriction as a weight loss method. Some people do caloric restriction for the weekday, and then on the weekends they binge eat. I was that person. For the longest time, I used to eat like 1,500 calories from Monday to Friday. In fact, this was me overestimating the amount of time I was in caloric restriction. It was in fact Monday through Thursday, I would eat 1,500 calories. And then on the weekends, I would binge eat and eat about 3,000 calories. Every Monday morning, I would be bloated and have excess water weight, along with the inability to lose fat. Like no changes in the scale came until I did some sort of fasting. Some people also try different dieting methods or different diets. They try keto diet, they try vegetarian diet, they try vegan diet, they try Atkins diet, Mediterranean diet, South Beach diet, high fat diet, high carb diet. And all these communities fight against each other. It's a warfare. Someone wants to be right about what diet is the best. Now, I have previously said high protein diet is the best. I stand by high protein diet because it is evolutionary backed. I don't believe in things that are not evolutionary backed. People who say high carb diet makes them feel good is because they're addicted to sugar. There's a dysregulation in their brains. However, this is not something to overlook. Fasting takes away all of that. Fasting even takes away if you're in high protein diet or a high carb diet or keto diet, vegan diet, etc. Because fasting is a therapeutic method, as you will see in this video when I explain what really fasting is physiologically. In this video, I'm going to go into the physiology of fasting so you can implement this in your lifestyle, and hopefully all this clutter about which diet is the best goes away with fasting, just because it does not matter what you eat, what diet you have. It matters where your food is coming from, the quality of the food, and the quality of the protein, the quality of the carbs, and the quality of fats. That's what matters. It does not matter what diet you are on. And again, it matters what type of fasting window it's best for you. That's what it matters. And it's also the timing of the food matters. So there's this system in your body called the feeding fasting cycle, where you ingest food, you digest it, and you absorb it, and then you eat food again. Let's just take a meal that is balanced in macronutrients, like 30% protein, 30% carbs, and 20% fats. Those macronutrients are broken down into their simpler products. Glucose comes from the carbs you eat. Amino acids comes from the protein you eat. And fatty acids and glycerol comes from the fats you eat. Okay? So those are individually absorbed. Your body creates a metabolic pool of amino acids, glucose, and fatty acids. When you are in the fed state, glucose levels rise. When glucose levels rise, glucose stimulates the pancreas to release insulin. Now, how this occurs, if we go into much more physiology, a type of glucose receptor takes in glucose, and glucose stimulates the release of insulin from the beta cells of the pancreas. There are different types of cells in the pancreas. Pancreas has the ability to release, I think, 4 hormones. One is glucagon, the other is glucose, the other 2 are irrelevant right now, as in this video. Glucose is insulin stimulator. So when you eat a meal that has these balanced micronutrients, there is a release of insulin because you have a glucose. Glucose is a insulin stimulator. It will stimulate your insulin levels so that you could take your glucose and shuffle it into your cells. Insulin also promotes the uptake of these fatty acids and these amino acids that are broken down from these macronutrients. We talked about insulin. We also talked about where it is produced from. When insulin is released, there is also a simultaneous inhibition of glucagon. Glucagon produces glucose. You will see in the fasting section of the video that glucagon has the ability to make glucose. Your body does not need glucose when you are in the fed state. So what happens is when you release insulin, there is a downregulation of glucagon inside your body so that you could use the glucose that comes from your food. It is also important to note when you feed yourself, you are inhibiting lipolysis. Lipolysis is breaking down fat. When you inhibit breaking down fat, you activate another set of reactions, right? You activate the stimulation of making fat in that process. And this may occur only if your total calories are exceeding. When you take calories that you don't need, even if you're intermittent fasting, you will increase lipogenesis, which is making fat. Additionally, we didn't talk about how glucose is stored. So when glucose is shuffled inside your cells, we have to look at what happens to glucose. So glucose will be used up as energy, aka ATP, in most cells. However, in liver and muscle, glucose is stored as glycogen. Glycogen is a complex form of glucose. When glucose enters liver and muscles, there are enzymes in those organs that increase or stimulate the production of glycogen. So glycogen is basically chains of glucose stored in those organs. To summarize, it takes about 3 hours to be in this fed state. There is an increase of lipogenesis if if your calories are really high. There is an inhibition of lipolysis, inhibition of breaking fat down, and there is increase of glycogen storage. Muscles and liver max their glycogen stores in the fed state. Now we're going to talk about the fasted state. The fasted state is when your blood glucose levels are low, your insulin is low. You are in a state of hypoglycemia. You've heard of these terms before. They're widely used in medicine. Hormonally, what happens is your insulin goes down, right? But glucagon goes up. Now, glucagon is tied to this process called gluconeogenesis. Glucagon initiates gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is your ability of the body to make glucose in the liver. Liver is a very important organ. It's a very essential organ. Without liver, you know that a human being cannot function, or an animal, because the liver makes glucose in the time of need. Fasting is a time of need. And when you fast, when you are in a fasted state, your liver creates glucose from the glycogen stores we had. Remember those glycogen stores we made when we were in the fed state. This is all due to glucagon, and insulin is always low. As you progress through your fasted state, your body will try to release as much glucose from your glycogen. You deplete your glycogen stores from your muscle and liver in the fasted state. The more you fast, the more deep are you into fasting, the more you're reaching the state of hypoglycemia. And I'll tell you why hypoglycemia is really essential for increased glucagon stimulation. What's the significance of increased glucagon stimulation? Like, you would say that this is unnecessary. Why do I need to like increase this fasted state? Why is hypoglycemia really important? So let's just talk about that for a minute. When you are in hypoglycemia and when your glycogen stores are not there, where do you think the energy is going to come from? It's going to come from your adipocytes, for your fat cells. When you're in a fasted state, there is also an increase of epinephrine levels. When there is an increase in epinephrine levels, and when there is an increase of glycogen, that only happens when insulin is really low. That only happens when hypoglycemia is achieved. Epinephrine and glucagon together stimulate the adipocytes to release fat, to break down fat into fatty acids and glycerol. And that is occurred in the fasted state. And when you are in that fasted state, you release fatty acid and glycerol. Fatty acids are used up to make more energy. Your body needs, you're in low energy state when you're fasting. So your body uses fatty acids and converts it into ATP, and then glycerol is used in your gluconeogenesis pathway. And gluconeogenesis again makes glucose. So what happens is a very interesting mechanism here. When you are in the fasted state, you release fat. You have to be deep into fasting. You release fat, and your fat is converted to ATP, and your fat could also be converted via glycerol to glucose, and that will maintain your blood glucose levels. Okay. Now, if you didn't have any knowledge about fasting, you would just be biased into thinking that fasting is starvation. Fasting is not starvation. When you do intermittent fasting regularly, or when you do a 24-hour fast or alternative day fasting regularly, it is not starvation. Starvation is achieved when your body breaks down your own tissues, your organs, and your muscles. That's when you reach starvation. Starvation is when you lose 50% of your total body mass. Fasting, on the other hand, is using your own body fat. So many people are obese in this world and they're scared to do fasting. You have stored body fat. You're in a high energy state. You have the potential to lose so much body fat that is just insane. You have the fuel. You have the fuel. You have the correct engine. You have the correct fire to lose body fat so quickly with a fasting method that you're probably overlooking it. This is a general physiology of fasting. This is what happens when you're fasting. Now, it depends on when this glucagon activation and epinephrine activation occurs at the same time. But various studies I've looked at, when people have tried intermittent fasting, there is reduction in weight, there is reduction in fat mass due to this mechanism. So intermittent fasting really helps out. And if you really want to take it one step extreme, do it for one more day. Achieve more fat loss by doing alternative day fasting. It truly works. It's not starvation. I'm currently fasting for about 18 hours now. So you can do it. Like I'm making this video in a hypoglycemic state. My thinking is still clear. My brain is using glucose. My metabolism is up. Your metabolism doesn't slow down like this when you're not eating. So the only way to know if fasting works is to try it out. I have done a video on it, different modes of fasting. You can try the intermittent fasting, which is eating in an 8-hour window. That's the best window, works for all of the people out there. You can also do 4-hour fasting, which I do almost 90% of the time right now. And you can also try 24-hour fasting. I've done it. I do that like probably once a month, maybe once a week. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's once a month. It depends. And then you could do I haven't tried alternative fasting, but I don't think I need to try it just yet. And so, yeah, if I gain 10 pounds quick, I think I'm going to try alternative day fasting, just because you can lose a lot of your weight without even focusing on calories and just eating high quality food. Your body will naturally give you satiety signals. That's another video. So this was physiology of fasting. And if you like this kind of content, hit like and obviously subscribe to this channel, and see you in the next video.